Ginger and I made base camp for this adventure at the Aspen Ridge cabins located in South Fork, Colorado. This is located 25 minutes from Creed. They were beautiful cabins at a great price. They sported a small kitchen and living area, as well as cozy, pine, log beds. And of course hot showers. Creed, Colorado is a beautiful, historic mining town located in southwest Colorado at the headwaters of the mighty Rio Grande. Like many Colorado mining towns, its population grew and declined with the success of the mines in the area. The town of Creed actually started in East Willow Creek Canyon. Nicholas Creed had located the Holy Moses claim on Campbell Mountain in the fall of 1889. The Sherman Silver Purchase Act was passed by Congress in 1890, almost doubling the price of silver, which increased the population of the small mining towns in Colorado. Creed was no different. The first silver discovery was made at the Alpha Mine in 1869, but the silver could not be extracted at a profit from the complex ores. The town leapt from a population of 600 in 1889 to more than 10,000 people in December 1891. The Creed mines operated continuously from 1890 until 1985 and were served by the Denver and Rio Grande Railroad. Creed's glory days lasted until 1893, when the silver panic struck the silver mining in Colorado. The price of silver dropped, and many of the silver mines closed. Creed never quite became a ghost town. Creed's glory days were over and its population dwindled. After 1900, Creed started relying on lead and zinc in the ores. At the north end of Creed is a long, narrow canyon. This leads to the Bachelor Loop that ascends into the historic mining area. There you will find the famous Commodore Mine. The Commodore Mine is a silver, zinc, and lead mine located just north of Creed at an elevation of 9,249 feet. The mine was initially discovered in 1891 by J.C. Mackenzie and W.V. McGilliard. The mine primarily operated through underground workings, with one known shaft. The maximum subsurface depth reaches 1,870 feet. Mining was the area's main industry through the years until 1985. Nothing had more of an impact on mining in Colorado than the Sherman Silver Purchase Act. This was a United States federal law enacted on July 14, 1890. The measure did not authorize the free and unlimited coinage of silver that the free silver supporters wanted. It increased the amount of silver the government was required to purchase on a recurrent monthly basis to 4.5 million ounces. The Sherman Silver Purchase Act had been passed in response to the growing complaints of miners. Mining companies had extracted vast quantities of silver from western mines, causing an oversupply that drove down the price. Many times the price of silver had dropped below the point at which the silver could be profitably extracted. They hoped the government would increase the demand for silver by purchasing it in large quantities.
Theodore Reininger came into Delnort one day, happened to walk into a butcher shop. Now, when he walked into this butcher shop, there was two butchers, Eric von Budenbrock and Ralph Granger. Now, evidently, he struck up a conversation and asked for a grub steak. They discussed it briefly and grub steaked Theodore with $125. Now, that was basically about a year's salary in 1891. Theodore had come on up to Creed and was here for the better part of a year, not having much luck. And he was down to his last $10. He decided it's time to quit. He went into one of the saloons in town, sat down with friends of his for breakfast. He told them, he said, you know what, I'm done with Creed. This is my last day. I'm down to my last $10. I'm going to get me a train ticket and I'm going to head back to Denver. He said, I'm going to go up one more time. And jokingly, as he walked out the door, he looked at everybody and he says, see y'all later. It's my last chance to strike it rich. Theodore Reininger come up from town prospecting. He tied his burro up. At some point during the day, his burro pulled loose from the willows. He knew that burro meant money for him. So he had to find that burro before he left on that train that same day. He followed the burro higher and higher up the hill for a total of over 1,500 feet of elevation change before he caught the burro. Now, whether it was anger, curiosity, or frustration, we don't know. Theodore walked over, he sat down by the rock where the burro was standing and started hammering on that rock. And that's where he broke open the amethyst vein that reached the surface. He loaded the burro up, went back to town, and he went in to see Nicholas Creed. Well, Nicholas assayed his material, and it turned out to be high silver content galena, or lead. Nicholas came up and he helped Theodore stake the last chance mine. Nicholas staked the claim right below it, the amethyst mine. My grandfather was a blaster in a coal mine, and I remember hearing the stories. I thought, you know what, that's not bad life. I think I'd like to, play a part of that. Well, I never quite got into mining, but I got involved with mines. And eventually, my trucking company and my second business, photography, brought me here. I came out here the summer of '98 to take historical photographs. As I got here, I contacted the last Granger, Nancy Granger Shallot. Well, I went ahead and hiked up, photographed it, went back down, called Nancy. I said, Nancy, I'm off the property. She said, how'd you like it? I said, I absolutely loved it. She said, you want to buy it? I said, ma'am, right now I couldn't afford to buy it. And she says, well, let me ask you a question. What would you do with it if you could afford to buy it? I said, I'd love to see it preserved, restored, open to the public. This is the kind of place that should be enjoyed by everybody. And I said, and the future generations need to understand the mining and what people went through. At the end of that conversation, she said, Jack, I want to talk this over with my son tonight. Call me back tomorrow. Well, I called her back the next day, and she said, David and I like your ideas, and we've decided we want you to have the mine. She said, we're going to sell it to you for the assessed tax value. She said $2,900. And I said, ma'am, I don't want to offend you, but why would you do that? That makes no sense. She said, because your answer was right and the other guy was wrong. She said, well, 3 years ago, there was a guy tried to buy it from me, and I turned him down because I didn't like his answer. He said it had $1 million view, and he wanted to bulldoze it and build a house. Well, I bought the mine. I went ahead and started restoration that same summer. I've learned what it was like for the miners to live here, because I lived here with nothing more than a bed and a cook stove from the 1890s. I've restored 4 other buildings on this level, so people can come up here and experience what it's like to live at the mine, similar to what the miners did. I think it's critical that we do this. This and others had to be saved. Otherwise, our future generations have no concept of what mining's all about. We have to remember our past. Here, you see firsthand by going inside these tunnels, and you look up hundreds of feet. and know these men stood up there with nothing in their hands but a pick or a shovel and a candle to see by.
I spotted a processing building for ore on a hillside. The terrain was very steep up to the opening, so I decided to launch the drone to get a better look. As I came closer to the open end of the building, my drone happened to catch the branch of a low bush. The drone went down. I couldn't leave the drone there, so I scrambled up the hillside to retrieve the wreck. The drone had captured an image within the structure that I had not seen. I never saw the image until Ginger and I had returned home. A deer had been watching me approach the building up until the wreck of the drone had scared it off. Robert Ford, the man who killed Jesse James, moved to Creede in the 1890s. On May 29, 1892, Robert Ford opened the Ford's Exchange Dance Hall. 6 days later, on June 6, the entire business district, including Ford's dance hall, burned to the ground. Wasting no time, Bob reopened another saloon a few days later in a makeshift tent. The very next day, June 8, Edward O'Kelly walked in with a sawed-off shotgun. Ford's back was facing the door when O'Kelly walked in. He said, "Hello, Bob." When Ford turned around to see who had called him, O'Kelly shot him with both barrels, killing him instantly. O'Kelly had hit Robert Ford in the neck, almost detaching his head. Ford was buried in Creede but was later exhumed and reburied in his hometown of Richmond, Missouri.